this lesson, I'm going to show you a common way to add some activity to your chord playing. And I thought I'd show it to you in the context of a blues. So up front there I was playing a 12-bar blues in G. And so this concept called Tritone substitution, I'm going to go ahead and break it down for you, and you can incorporate it into your chordal playing. So if you take G7 and you analyzed it from the standpoint of here's the root, the fifth is up here, so the root and fifth, and then in between you have the flat 7 and the third. So these two notes are the critical component of what you're going to be transferring. So, okay, the G7 can be substituted with a D flat 7, which is a tritone away from G. So that interval is called a tritone. Among other names, it's called flat 5 or sharp 4, sharp 11, all these names for the same sound. But yeah, so tritone. And basically what you get when you play a D flat 7 chord is, well, part of what you get is you get the third and the 7 of the G7. So I said F and B are in that G7 chord, and that's the flat 7 and the third, which are the critical notes that make that sound like a G7 chord. If you bring this F up to here, then you have the B and F like this. And then the D flat, if you relate it to G specifically, then the D flat is, well, as I already pointed out, is the sharp 11 or the tritone. Your third finger is playing A flat, which against G is flat 9, which is a nice tension against G. But the main thing that makes this work is when you play a dominant 7th chord a tritone away, you maintain that third and 7 of the original chord. And like I said, that's what makes it what it is. I mean, that's these two notes, the third and the 7, is what makes the G7 sound like a G7, as opposed to, for instance, a G major 7 or a G minor 7. You know, it's this third and 7 here. So yeah, so this is something that you can throw in as a way to connect chords and add activity to your chordal playing. If you went from G7 to C7, instead of just playing G7, whatever fingering you prefer, to C7, you would just have. But if you add in that D flat, you can go. You can also, for the C7, play the tritone of that, going back to the G7. So a tritone away from C is this F sharp here. So you could go from the 1 chord So already you can see how this is, starting to activate things a little bit. And when I was playing harmonically at the beginning of this video, some of that was included in my playing. And yeah, so just taking any dominant 7th chord and then playing the tritone away, a lot of times will voice lead to the next chord in a very smooth way. If I played, say, G9 up here, and then D flat 7 here, going to the 4 chord, the C7, then you have, and then the tritone of C being F sharp here, you can play F sharp 9 back to G, so you get. And like any rhythm guitar chordal playing, you want to activate these chords with rhythms, and that's something definitely to get more into. But yeah, so again, take a dominant 7th chord, play a dominant 7th chord a tritone away from the original root, and you maintain the 3rd and the 7 of the original, and you're adding the sharp 4, sharp 11, or flat 5, and the flat 9 to the original chord. And that just basically creates tension, which then gets resolved when you go to the resolution chord, in this case the 4 chord. And let's see, is there anything else worth mentioning here? You know, it's good to learn these things all over the guitar, and in different keys and stuff like that. I should mention also the 3rd and 7 of a 7th chord, but taking dominant 7th chord here, is called the guide tones. And the guide tones, like I mentioned, are the notes that make the chord what it is. So those are the critical notes in there. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed learning about the tritone substitution, and you kind of mess around with it and enjoy checking it out. All right, guys, I'll talk to you in a lesson soon.